Alright everybody, welcome to another episode of Psycho's Platters, always powered by coffee each and every time, that's right. So I know what you're probably saying to yourself, what's the mighty Psycho gonna go off and do today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting very, very close to Valentine's Day. Originally I was gonna release this on Valentine's Day, but I'm doing it slightly early due to I'm going to probably be very, very busy now on Valentine's Day. So what better way to be able to show you, my audience, how much I love you guys so much, because I do. I have an incredible audience. You guys never seem to amaze me with all the views, the positive comments, the suggestions. All kinds of stuff like that. So, we're starting Season 4 of Jukebox from Hell. That's right. I promised this, we're going to deliver. And you know, it's an act of love, ladies and gentlemen. An act of love to you people in the YouTube community and the vinyl community too. Because what the premiere episode is the November 1978 album. Oh boy, I'm going to get a bunch of groans for this. Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Love Beach. Oh yes, yes, oh yes, oh yes. Here's the front, here's the back. I definitely have had some people that have asked and talked about this, and I happened to trip on a copy of this, still sealed. Yeah, still sealed. I opened it though, of course, to listen to it, and I'll show you in a minute in the record collecting spotlight in regards to what everything that came with it. But we got our notes here prepared, okay? And our notes, of course, came from the official Emerson, Lake and Palmer website. We also happened to have, there was one Steve Hoffman forum I looked into, of course, Wiki, AllMusic. We did a combination of things, okay? So, Love Beach, November 1978 for Emerson, Lake and Palmer. At this point, this was their 7th studio album from the group. This was done after the 1977/78 US tour. The group was disintegrating, but contractually they owed Atlantic Records one more album. That's right. They were going to break up after that tour, and well, oh boy, Ahmet Ertegun reminded them of this. The group went to the Bahamas as a tax write-off, pretty much. Former King Crimson, Roxy Music, and Bucks Fizz lyric writer Pete Sinfield co-writes on almost every track of this album. Now, like I said, Ahmet Ertegun, though, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, he suggested a more commercial album, which kind of sort of went up the vein of Greg Lake, per se, because he was a little more commercial with his stuff, of course. Lucky Man and others, you know, that was him that did that stuff. But they overall didn't want to do it. But he told them, Ahmet did, that if they didn't play ball, that he would decline releasing solo albums for the label. Yeah, so talk about a proverbial gun getting put to your head, right? The relations between the group were strained, like I said already, and Emerson's alleged drug use, it combined, didn't bode well. After Lake and Palmer did their parts for this album, they left Nassau. And with Emerson stuck with producing. Singles were released in the UK and Germany, but they didn't chart. In the US, it went to number 55 on the Billboard charts. UK slightly better at number 48. So, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Love Beach. Now, on a record collecting spotlight, before we get into the track-by-track analysis, like I said, this was still sealed, so it was kind of fun to have literally a minty copy of this. You're going to be looking at that for your vinyl. But there was another added little bonus in here, which I care to share for you guys. This is an Emerson, Lake and Palmer merchandise Now I think it's funny because it says order exclusive Emerson, Lake and Palmer tour gear. Alright, that's what it said. We'll talk about tour shortly about this and the afterward. But, so, I mean, here's where, look at those Love Beach shorts. Oh my God, did anybody buy those Love Beach shorts? And then, of course, you've got Emerson, Lake and Palmer on Atlantic Records and Tapes, which, of course, showed pretty much, of course, their catalog output up to that point. But, Love Beach shorts. Anyways, I digress. In the words of Paul Harvey, page 2. So, 7 tracks on this album. We start off right off the bat with All I Want Is You. It's a good song, but very busy. Now, I know you're like, well, hey, jackass, Emerson, Lake and Palmer is a busy band. They're pretentious. They're borderline symphonic. They're all over the place. Yes, I understand that, okay? And I'm a fan of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I've got their earlier stuff, Brain Salad Surgery, Tarkus, Trilogy, okay? I've got those kind of things. But to me, this just seemed like there was no direction in the cacophony. It does have a slight island vibe, though, for All I Want Is You. Track 2, Love Beach. Good song. Has a little bit of a Beatle jangle in the background, at least in my opinion. Quote from the lyrics, I'll make love to you on Love Beach. Indeed, yes. Then we get to track 3, Taste of My Love. I do like this song. This is what I wrote. I do like this song, but I'll be damned. But why is this giving off Spinal Tap vibes? Somehow I could see this happen. Seriously, like Spinal Tap covering this in their own way. And if you know who I'm talking about with Spinal Tap, good for you. If not, go look them up on YouTube. I think you'll be amused. Track 4, The Gambler. They gambled and lost on this one. Track 5, For You. Why do I see this being sung by a lounge singer? A bad one at that. Track 6. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Canario. Now, see, this is the LP, ELP, I remember. Definitely. This goes back to the typical, you know, early to mid 70s Emerson, Lake Palmer vibe, all right? This and, boy, probably this one and All I Want Is You and Love Beach are probably my favorite tracks off of here, okay? Track 7, Memoirs of an Officer and a Gentleman, not to be confused with the movie with Richard Gere and Deborah Winger. No, far from it. It's made up of 4 parts, by the way. Parts of this, it's about 20 minutes long, total with 4 parts. Part of it's okay, but I'm just not a fan of this as a whole, for the song-wise, per se. I actually also heard somewhere down the line that there was a unreleased or unfinished 5th part to that song. Not sure how true that is. So, good old Afterwards. The album did go gold in the US by early 1979. So there definitely was a fan base for this, alright? But, they've had platinum LPs and such, so this kind of was a downstep. Also around that time, Palmer attempted to get a farewell summer tour going, but it never happened. Maybe that explains what I just showed you with the Love Beach shorts. They thought they were going to take those on tour. But that summer tour never happened. There was no breakup announcement. Palmer then pretty much goes to form the band PM. Lake creates the Greg Lake Band. and releases his first album in September 1981. Keith Emerson, in 81, he released his first solo album, Honky, which was calypso and reggae driven. Now, in the 80s and 90s, he did a lot of soundtrack work. Also, before I get to the next paragraph, in 1983, in the band Asia, which Carl Palmer was in since 81 also, that there was a discrepancy, a dispute, a disagreement between John Wetton and Steve Howe. You know, egos ensued, that's how you got it. And after the second album, Alpha, pretty much John pulled off the it's either him or me card. It ended up being him. John Wetton ended up leaving, and it was right before a tour of Asia, and Greg Lake temporarily stepped in. And I remember when MTV broadcasted that, actually. I saw bits of that at one point or another. It's also legitimately now released on vinyl and CD, or you can just check it out on YouTube. Either way. I don't really think, it wasn't great, it wasn't crappy, it was just in between, you know, with Greg Lake being in Asia for I think he was only in for a couple months and then he was gone already. So then we flash forward to 86. We get Emerson, Lake, and Powell, that's right. That was released. It was a decent album, and then Emerson and Lake joined Robert Barry to form the band 3 in 1988. In 1992, you finally get Emerson, Lake, and Palmer back, with the band Black Moon being released. The last performance of this trio was in July 2010 for the High Voltage Festival. They kept trying to get back together, but we're not going to go into that. That'd be another couple minutes. Keith died, unfortunately, by suicide in March 2016, and Greg Lake died of cancer in December of that same year. Carl Palmer is the only surviving member. Currently, as of this taping, he is doing Carl Palmer's Emerson, Lake, and Palmer legacy, and also in Asia still. So let me ask you something, okay? Are you an Emerson, Lake, and Palmer fan? I am. I like a majority of their material, all right? This one here, okay, I think, like I said, it's not a complete shit album, but it's not great either, all right? I think it's in between. I probably would give it maybe on a grade scale, maybe a B minus C plus. I don't know. I mean, they did try to be less progressive and more commercial. That part is true. But like I said, it doesn't help that the band already was kind of getting on each other's nerves. Did you end up getting this when this first came out? Now, like I said, I got this still sealed with a cutout hole. I do remember seeing this in cutout bins in the early 80s. I remember this. Like, they had this thing down to, I think, like $1.99. and I'm like, And of course, the cover doesn't help either. This was the picture was taken in Bahamas. What were they trying to be? The Prague Bee Gees? I know. They could have had a better cover. Maybe it would have sold a little bit better. I don't know. So like I said, are you an Emerson, Lake, and Palmer fan? Did you buy this when it first came out? What's your favorite track? What is your favorite Emerson, Lake, Palmer album or song? I would love for you to put that in the comments. I would be curious about that. So you might be asking yourself, but even if you're not, too bad, because I'm going to tell you anyway. And by the way, on the scorecards, this is episode 31. So what's going to be episode 32 of Jukebox from Hell? Well, we're going to go slightly forward, just a teensy, to February 1980. Yeah, February 1980. We're going to investigate a second album. Yeah, this group's second album. The first album was huge. Oh my God, was it huge. But there was a backlash just almost as quick to this band. Was it fair? I don't really think so. But this is what happens when your record company hypes too much and promotes too much. It can happen. So we are going to be talking about the second album on Capitol Records from the Knack. That's right, from the Knack, but the little girls understand it. That'll be the next episode on Jukebox from Hell. Do you like this series? I've had a lot of fanfare for this. Is there an album or CD, because some of them are going to be CDs, that you would like me to review for Jukebox from Hell? Please put it in the comments. I will put it in the request book. In fact, this Knack one is being done by request, actually, too. So, listen, Valentine's Day's coming up here. I want everybody to, I don't know, just love each other, okay? Good and bad. And you just take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time. Remember, kids, always powered by coffee, each and every time. That's the Mighty Psycho promise. Love Beach, indeed.